Hey folks, I wanted to give you some tips and tricks for working with data in Math Excel for school. In other words, I would like you to understand some ways to take data that you're presented with in a given question and to be able to use that data with software without you having to do too much work. So, in order to figure out how to avoid a lot of work, we're going to have to use our brain a lot, okay? And usually that's how it works, okay? Usually if you're going to avoid a lot of hard work, then it takes a lot of hard thinking. So that's what we're going to do right now. You will have to revisit this video. Very few people will pick up on this the first time through. So anyways, here is, I think it's about 20 data points in a particular question, and I'm being asked to find quartiles and such. But regardless of what the statistics is that I'm trying to find, I want to show you guys some ways to get this data into a couple of tools where you can crunch the numbers. One thing you could do is you could use something that's built into Math Excel for School that's called Statcrunch. And if you want to do that, you can go ahead and click on the little button next to the data and choose Open in Statcrunch. And Statcrunch is something where I have not showed you how to use it yet. And part of the reason I'm not that crazy about it is because you are not very likely to be using StatCrunch in the real world with data, but nevertheless, I would like you to be familiar with how various software programs work. In StatCrunch, when I click on the button, it automatically loads all the data in there, so that's nice and convenient. Another thing that we can do is, now that I've got the data in there, what we can do is go to the Stat menu. We can also go to the Graph menu, lots of cool graphs, but we can go to the Stat menu and go to Summary Stats. And because my data is in a column, I'm going to choose Columns. Now, in order to do processing with these numbers, I have to select the particular column that I'm interested in. Sometimes it's possible we might have more than one column of data, so you have to tell StatCrunch which column you want. And then after we do that, I'm going to go ahead and say compute. And StatCrunch will give me all this cool stuff, mean and quartile 1 and quartile 3 and min and max, a lot of good stuff, median, range. So anyways, that's cool. That's pretty quick and easy if you understand how to use StatCrunch. And again, if you would prefer to get to know software that you will actually use in the real world and that we'll be using in this class again and again, we'll look at how to get this data into R. So let's try that. So let's say we take this very same data. And by the way, this is not just getting data into R. This is a useful technique for getting data into other types of software programs that you will encounter throughout your career and maybe your personal life. So I'm going to go ahead and say copy to clipboard. And I'm going to go ahead and I guess once it's all selected here, I'll do Control C. On the Mac, you'll do Command C. And now it's in the computer's clipboard. And then in order to get it into to R, which is something that I would like to do, I'm going to have to try to figure out how to get the data so that it's lined up horizontally with commas in between. Because and right now it is lined up horizontally in Math Excel, and that's good. But unfortunately, they're not letting me click and drag and paste. All I can do is get the information in this format where it's all vertically. So I'm going to show you a little trick that people use spreadsheets for to sort of rotate the data. There's a fancy word, it's called transpose. And what I'm going to do is first I'm going to paste the data in this vertical form like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose to copy the data, even though I already had just copied it. In order to use this little trick in Google Sheets, I need to copy it in the sheet. I need to first paste it in the sheet, then copy it in the sheet. Why? Who knows? I'm just giving you the benefit of my experience. Now, I'd like these numbers to all be horizontal. I'd like them to be like this. So what I'm going to do is, now that I've copied it like this, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to choose Paste Special, and one of the options is Paste Transposed. And if you folks have Microsoft Excel, or if your parents use Microsoft Excel, they also have the ability to copy and paste transposed. So I'm going to go ahead and paste transposed, and when I do, all the numbers are now horizontal. So I'll go ahead and do Control C to copy all that, and we're going to go back to my REPL-IT, where I have my R program, and I'm going to go ahead and paste. I'll do a Control V. Unfortunately, when I do, I don't get commas in there, and I could go through and I could put the commas myself, but again, I'm going to show you a little trick about how to get commas in when you know that there's a certain type of character in between all the characters you're interested in. So in this case, it turns out when I do the copy and paste from Excel, I automatically get tab characters put in between each of these. So between these two 19s, there's a single tab character. Between the 15 and 31, there's a single tab character. And a lot of good programming environments, programming editors, code editors, they have the ability to do find and replace. So I'm going to go ahead and type Control H, and if you're on a Mac, you would do Command H. And when I do, I get the option for something that's called find and replace. And I think if I delete these, yeah, you can see it. There it is. Find and replace. So what I'd like to do is I would like to find the tab character. Now, over here in REPL-IT, in the R editor in REPL-IT, I've got a few things that I can search for. I can try to search for letters. I can try, let's see, what are these other things? I can try to match an entire word. And then I've got something called use a regular expression. I'm going to click on that. And oops, if you click it twice, it clicks off. So I'm going to click it so there's a little blue box around there. Then I'm going to do \T. And what \T stands for is a tab character. And you can see when I did that, all of a sudden I got all these little orange boxes down here between all the numbers. I'll go ahead and get rid of it so you can watch it again in instant replay. Here we go. I'm going to go \T, and boom, REPL-IT in its editor found all those tabs. Now, what I'd like to replace all those tabs with is just a comma. I don't even care about a space. I'll just put a comma. Now, in order to make it happen, in order to replace the very first instance, I'm going to go ahead and hit the Enter key. And when I do, I replace the first tab between the 6 and the 8 with a comma. And then I'll just do that a few more times. And every time I hit Enter, I replace a tab with a comma. And there we go. So I got it all done. And then I'll go ahead and click on this little X to get rid of my find and replace box. And that's kind of a neat little trick. When you're trying to take data from one software application to another, there are many little tricks to take the data from whatever form it's in and put it in another form where it's needed. And I just want to introduce you to that idea, to plant that seed in your mind in case you're ever in a situation where you need to crunch some data and you're like, oh, but I can't do it when it's in this form. I'd like you to know that there's a variety of tools that we have for manipulating data. Now, there is another cool way to analyze this data that I have not shown you yet. And let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and click on the button and say copy to clipboard. And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I do Control C to copy that data. And then I'm going to go to a new website called CodeApp, C-O-D-A-P. And you can find it just by Googling CodeApp. I'm going to go ahead and click on the button Try CodeApp, and that's what you would do as well. And when I get here, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new document. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a table. And I am going to make a whole nother video on CodeApp just to show you some of the cool things you can do with it. But one of the neat things that we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and paste the data from Math Excel for School into here. Now, like so many things in life, there's some tricks. You got to go on a bit of a scavenger hunt to find out how to get the data in here. If I simply try to do Control V and paste, unfortunately, it gives them to me in a horizontal list, which is not what I wanted in this particular case. So what we'll do instead is we're going to examine some of the buttons here associated with this table of data. And this ruler button here has several options, and one of the options is import case data from clipboard. So that's what we're going to do. And remember, by the way, the terminology that's being used here, cases, is the same terminology that we saw in the textbook when we were talking about the who of the data. Remember that the who of the data is typically represented as cases that are the rows in a table of data. In this case, you'll see in a second. Let me go ahead and import the data and I'll show you. So let's go ahead and import. It asks me, would you like to replace the existing data or append? I would say you're usually going to want to append just in case you already have data in there and you don't want to accidentally overwrite it. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And so what happens is the data all got pasted in there. Now, it didn't get pasted into the very first row, or the very first column, I'm sorry. It got pasted into the second column. And the other problem is it looks like it's possible that, when I pasted it in, I must have left the header there. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let's see if I can redo the pasting. Let's see here. Yes, target options. Okay. Well, preparing to import new data set, 19 rows from a table with one attribute, 6. Yeah, no, it's so somehow for some reason it took the 6 as a header and it's not. 6 was one of the data points, I believe. We'll just double check real quick. Yeah, 6 is one of the data points. So one little problem with using CodeApp is you will have to take that very first number and type it in manually. And then I can always come up here to the top and rename and call this whatever it is. In this case, Math Excel for School, it was the fat content in sandwiches. So we'll just call it, let's get back here, rename fat content, something, I'll just call it fat, make it simple. Okay, there we go. So now the data is in CodeApp. And pretty soon I'll give you guys a video on how to do other neat things with CodeApp. I'll just give you a quick teaser right now. So for instance, if I wanted to do a quick histogram of all the data in that column that I just pasted in, I just click on the name fat and drag until I get down to the bottom here, and then voila, I get a beautiful little, it's not quite a histogram, it's really more of something we call a dot plot. But with a couple little presses of the button, we can make it into bins, and then we can turn it into a fancy schmancy histogram, yay! And if we undo some of that, we can do other neat stuff. Including doing a box plot. Yay! And if we want, we can even show outliers. Woohoo! Anyways, CodeApp has all sorts of neat possibilities. All right, that's it for now. Just wanted to share some tips and tricks with you.